Fire, 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 fire.
I'm ready. What is this even about? Ubisoft claims microtransactions help players experience more fun. Yeah, I really love calculating. So this is what I would do. I had a pretty shitty job that paid minimum wage, and sometimes I'd look at a skin that costs $10 and I'm like, is this worth 1 hour of work? You ever like do that in your head? Like you have a shitty job and you're like, is this worth 1 hour of work? Like, do you think it's pretty enough? Like, would you be happy with it and then you really think about it? I hate thinking like that. Oh my gosh, I hate thinking like that too. Yeah. Yeah, think about it, Chad. It sucks.
With the amount of tomatoes
Poopy
I've thrown
soft.
at Ubisoft over the last couple of years, I could run Heinz out of business. It is incredibly easy to hate this company, and they make it clear that they deserve it. They are not shy about telling you how much they hate you. They have become infamous for the "you will own nothing and be happy."
Again, you go back to the analogy of how people think nowadays, and people are sick of looking at an $80 price tag and being like, is this game going to give me enough joy and dopamine and fun to work for 8 hours a day for one video game that may or may not even be that good? I'm all for games that are, you know, worth the money. Like, if you're gonna spend that much time playing a game, it's worth it. If it costs $80 and you play it for 200 hours, you're getting way more worth out of it.
Mentality. They have even point blank said that gamers need to be comfortable not owning their games. This is a company that every step of the way chooses all of the wrong options during the QuickTime events. They are not even accidentally saying things that anyone could appreciate, even the most diehard Ubisoft Formula fans, if such a creature even exists at this point. They can't even unintentionally say something agreeable. Even as their stock price plummets, fucking death spirals.
It's been death spiraling for like a year, and then they got bought out, and then they just crashed again after Assassin's Creed Shadows came out. Again, I can't help but laugh at that.
They somehow dig deeper. This is the
it went up a
equivalent
little bit.
to the captain of a sinking ship turning on all the sink faucets to try and fill it up with even more water as much as possible. I cannot understand it. Today, they've gone on quite the spree here, an entire montage of bad takes from Ubisoft, and I have to make fun of them again.
All right, lay it on us,
have
Chad.
to.
I mean,
Keep
Charlie.
in mind, this company is so misguided. They released multiple NFT games only a year ago, and NFTs are dead and buried, and somehow Ubisoft is still pooping those puppies out.
And you want to know the best part? There are some people that would unironically buy the NFTs. I think that's why they do this. They actually think that they're gonna make money off of it. Yes, NFTs. Those stupid monkey Twitter profile pictures that were all the craze like 6 years ago, maybe 5 years ago.
It's crazy how out of touch Ubisoft is. In order to prove that the stupid juice is still flowing deeply at Ubisoft.
My monkey Ezio NFT. Yeah, it's a monkey with the Ezio hood over its head.
Headquarters to this day. Let's go ahead and show you their most recent annual financial report where they talk about their microtransactions and how microtransactions are actually a good thing because it allows their players to experience more fun.
Yeah, you have to open your wallet to experience the fun. If you're poor, you can't have fun. You will own nothing and be happy.
Reminiscent of that time EA defended Battlefront controversial decisions by claiming that it was intended to give players a sense of pride and accomplishment. You can...
Oh my god, I used to like think like how cool it was when someone had like a really cool mount on World of Warcraft and it was like from a raid achievement or something. I'd be like, damn, that guy's a loser, but he's like better at the game than me and he has friends to play with, right? Now it's like, oh, you have a job? Oh, you swipe $20 for a mount? That looks kind of cool. Oh yeah. Yeah, that's an achievement. Oh
catch
my
a slight
god, man.
whiff
That's
of that
crazy.
aroma here in the Ubisoft financial report with that statement. And I also can't help but giggle at the first line in their financial report where they try and claim that they're an
Experience
industry
more
leader
fun.
in this sector. What a load of fucking barnacles. Get a load of this guy. Maybe at one point in time they were, but these days they are just a public spittoon for people to walk by and hawk loogies on. They are a sad shell of their former self. But this is all public. You can all read it yourself if you want to put your peepers on it. Down here is where you can find this statement. The adoption of monetization and engagement policies that respect the player experience and are sustainable in the long term. At Ubisoft, the golden rule when developing premium games is to allow players to enjoy the game in full without having to spend more.
But if you want the better experience, you can pay money and get a better experience instead of putting it in the base game.
Our monetization offer within premium games makes the player experience more fun by allowing them to personalize their avatars or progress more quickly. However, this is optional. How delusional can you be? It's not even like a good lie. The motivator for these microtransactions that they are ham-fisting into every single game of theirs for the last decade is solely driven by wanting to hose the consumer for more money beyond the initial purchase
Throttle
of
their
the game.
balls, chat.
Trying to squeeze some more coins out of the piggy banks of the players, hoping that some of the whales will pay to maybe speed progress up like they mention. And while yes,
I still can't believe that's actually one of the things that they do. One of my chatters told me a while ago, I'm pretty sure they have like a battle pass for the main quest and you can pay money to like open up more of the map to like do more content, even though it's shitty content. I can't believe that's real.
it is optional. There is a little something called pay to win, and it is a very real thing. It's not some make-believe boogeyman. But even in cases where you're offering microtransactions in single-player games, which Ubisoft loves to do, that's not exactly something...
What game? It was Odyssey. I was watching a video game donkey video on that too, and you get a battle pass for Odyssey, where you get more experience. You pay more for more experience in a single-player game. Imagine if Baldur's Gate 3 did that shit.
Worth celebrating, because now you're devoting resources into trying to find ways to get more money out of this single-player game, when those resources could have been devoted to just making the game better in the first place.
No, we gotta gate that back, bro. You gotta dial it back. You're not thinking like a corpo. Pay $30 to reveal the entire map without getting those viewpoints. Yeah, I think that was it, wasn't it?
Something that Ubisoft seems very against.
Not
Their
Odyssey.
games fall into the same formula and have been for so long now that people are beyond tired of it. And instead of trying to find ways to breathe new life into their titles, they instead try and find new ways of monetizing them through these microtransactions and shit. It's so tone deaf as well, and it shows very clearly that they don't even see player feedback, because every single Ubisoft game that comes out that is riddled, infected with microtransactions, like every Assassin's Creed now, you find collective sighs from even the most loyal supporters of the franchise. People aren't happy with it. And here they are just completely ignoring.
But the worst part is there's still people who buy that shit. Why do you think Ubisoft isn't out of business yet? Yeah, they sold to NetEase, but they didn't go out of business. They didn't just die. There are whales out there that are willing to pay $70 or $80 for a game, or $90 for the extra deluxe edition, and then they buy the battle pass on top of that, and then they buy the experience boost on top of that, then they buy the, I don't know, whatever the fuck else. Like, it's just like, it's insane that people have money like that to spend.
It and trying to spin it as a positive thing, like, oh, it's always optional. Like, it actually like goes over really well because, I mean, it's personalized fun, right? Who wouldn't want to pay for that? Am I right? But another thing that also came out here is Ubisoft's thoughts on the real reason Star Wars Outlaws flopped. They are blaming disinterest in the franchise, which, when it was reported that Outlaws was stumbling and not performing all that well, that was cope they used back then as well, like some whispers of it being like, oh, the IP is just not as strong as it once was.
I watched Asmund play it on day one, and the stealth was literally broken, and you literally couldn't play the game. It was bugged. He'd run in and out of the bush, and it would reset the mobs. It's terrible. What?
Now they're just coming out here with their whole chest saying, no, the reason Outlaws didn't do well is just because no one cares about Star Wars anymore. Which is fucking crazy. They are just refusing to take the L and come to terms with the fact that the reason Outlaws didn't do well is it's just not a good game. And it doesn't even have the decency of being like a laughably horrible game where it could be like entertaining in how shitty it is. It is just so boring. It is like the most safe, by the numbers, bland, sterile, Ubisoft, Ubislop game. It is the same generic open world Ubisoft experience that we have seen 1,000 times before, and clearly people are tired of. The only difference with this one is it had a Star Wars skin on it. And also some of the worst stealth you'll find. But outside of the worst stealth you'll find, everything else...
And the dialogue is terrible, too. I remember seeing, like, a scene where the character's face barely moves, and you're thinking to yourself, like, is this game from 2010? I would even argue that games in 2010 had better facial movements than most of the crap that they pump out now.
Was just serviceable, and it didn't even try to do anything well. It was just content being mid. And Ubisoft has, for some reason, really struggled with accepting the fact that mid just doesn't really cut it anymore. People don't...
Mid has never cut it. Like, really, honestly. 10, maybe even 15 years ago, you really had to make a standout game to stand out from the crowd. Do you guys not remember all the crap that Xbox and PlayStation would pump out, and nobody would play that shit, and it would sit in, like, the EB Games, or, what is it called, not Best Buy. You know, like, the secondhand stores, where it's just like, yeah, it's shovelware, that's the word. Yeah, the game's on the bargain bin. You had to make a standout, classy game to be on the shelf.
Don't want more Ubisoft open world games. It's been done a billion times the exact same way every time. It's tired and it's
And genuinely, I think that Star Wars Outlaws belongs in the bargain bin. But they try to paint it as like this amazing AAA game.
Out, and the sales show that with Star Wars Outlaws. It has nothing to do with the weakening of the IP, which is a real thing. Since going to Disney, it hasn't been as strong. A lot of the Disney shows have been super stinkers, but I think there is more evidence to the contrary that there is a hunger for good Star Wars, as demonstrated by Andor. I can't glaze Andor enough. I think that show is a masterpiece, and I think the reception and the absolute booming success of it speaks for that. People want good Star Wars. They're just not getting it often. Very rarely with something like Andor coming out.
Yeah, and then they pounce on when it's actually half decent. Would you say it was decent, or is it really amazing? Again, I think people jump on the fact if it's just above mediocre. It's very good, really good, it's decent. Yeah, I would say, like, again, I've heard pretty good things about it.
Star Wars Outlaws falls into the really uninteresting bucket of Star Wars that people just don't want to play with anymore. They don't want to touch, they don't want to indulge with. But there is still very much a lot of people wanting good Star Wars. It has nothing to do with the IP, with why Star Wars Outlaws flopped. But Goober is still trying to write it off as one of the...
it's the French CEO, Yves Guillemot.
Contributing factors that the game suffered from a number of items. First, it suffered from the fact it was released at a time when the brand that it belonged to, was in a bit of choppy water, and then he acknowledged...
I love that they blame Star Wars. I mean, honestly, I get it. You have to, for these CEO meetings with the investors, you have to blame everyone but the company, because if you make your company look weak, they'll instantly sell the stock, or, you know, have like a meeting to fucking boot you out.
Some technical problems, such as things missing polish, but they were polished and debugged early enough, but it had
early enough.
Which, again, like, yeah, there were some technical issues, but that is not the main reason that it failed, nor is it the strength of the IP during your release window here. You made basically the exact same copy and paste Ubisoft open world game again. No one wants it. Just accept it and do something different. The final little nugget from Ubisoft today is in regards to them loosely addressing Stop Killing Games,
Oh,
or
yeah.
more so, what they believe.
Really telling how many companies, including Activision Blizzard, including EA Games, all the big AAAs that used to be wholesome companies. I think that's the saddest part. All the companies that started off as small little, you know, mom and pop, like little cute little indie game developers, now they're monsters. And look at them now. Look what they're doing. Yeah, the corporal blood runs thick through them. You stop buying new games? Fine, you can't play our old ones anymore. Yeah, you gotta buy the new slop. We don't want to put effort into preserving our old games. So you can't remember, and then we're gonna gaslight you and say that they never existed.
Believe Stop Killing Games is about, and it's not the best response, but it's also being misrepresented by some publications with what he was actually saying. So apparently, Ubisoft CEO Goober was asked to respond to the movement at a recent shareholders meeting and said, regarding the petition, we operate in a market, and whenever we release a game, we provide a lot of support for that game. We also provide a lot of...
No, you don't. Why do you lie? Me when I lie.
...services to make sure that the game is accessible and remains playable 24/7. Wow, what saints. How unique. These heroes make sure a game is accessible 24/7, huh? That's never been done before. Holy shit. Crazy concept. Whoa. You mean even on weekends you can play your games?
What? No way.
So stupid. Ubisoft does the absolute bare fucking minimum. Anyway, though, moving on.
I'm here for
Goober
you,
says
chat.
that the company provides information regarding the game and how long the
24/7.
game can be played, though he doesn't go into specifics about how those notices work. The crew, this is speaking in particular about the crew, did have a badge on its front box noting online connection required. You should have known better. You weren't actually buying anything. You were paying to rent. We were giving you a permission slip to play our game.
I knew the downfall of games was like Diablo 3's launch. Back in like, God, when was Diablo 3 launch? 2012, I want to say. When they started saying that the cope was the game being down and that you should expect it to be down. Was it 2011? God, it was so long ago. Gosh. Yeah, and then they started, Blizzard basically didn't really apologize that much about the game being down because it's like, well, the game's really popular. You should have expected it to not be, to be down with error 37 and the whole shebang about not being able to access the game on day one. It was down for legitimately weeks for most people.
For however long we deemed worthy.
Yeah, it was
And the notice in the fine print on the
unfucking-playable.
back that Ubisoft may cancel access to one or more specific online features upon a 30-day prior notice. Jumping a bit forward, he says, but this kind of issue is not specific to Ubisoft. All video game publishers are faced with that issue. You provide a service, but nothing is written in stone, and at some point the service may be discontinued.
So then let people get the game. Like, let people have their little private server, like, version. Like, okay, maybe there's, like, a couple hundred people, a couple thousand people playing your game and loving it. But no, we want them to come to the new game. We don't want them reminiscing about the old game that they used to love. It's so unfair. I hate Nintendo for the very same reason. You can't just, like, load up Heart Gold and Soul Silver because they just won't let you. You can't pirate it. If you fucking pirate that shit, they'll be on your ass instantly. No, go play our shitty Diamond and Pearl remake. Good lord.
Nothing is eternal, and we are doing our best to make sure that things go
Yeah,
well for all
Overwatch
players and
1, you
buyers
can't go
because
play that
obviously
anymore,
support
huh?
for all games cannot last forever. The article then notes that this is not what Stop Killing Games is trying to do, trying to get perpetual support for the rest of fucking the galactic existence of these games or whatever. That is, again, not at all what it's looking for. Anyway, though, he goes on to say, the lifespan of a piece of software, whenever there's a service component, eventually services may be discontinued, but eventually the software may become obsolete over time. A lot of tools become obsolete 10, 15 years down the line. They're
But it shouldn't be like that. You can go buy a car from 10 to 15 years ago and still ride that thing. It doesn't just blow up when it reaches like 10 or 15 years old. Like, I still have a car that's from like 15 years ago. Like, what the frick?
No longer available, and that is why we...
No, I don't have like Saturn like messaging me be like, Alana, you need to go buy the latest Saturn or whatever. You're driving a 2009? Oh my god, your car deleted after 5 years. Imagine like Mercedes like comes and like, hey, we need your money.
Release a new version. And so we have version 2 and then version 3.
Does
But
Saturn
clearly this
still
is a
exist? I
far-reaching
don't know.
issue, and we're working on
I
it.
genuinely don't know.
Now, maybe I'm being too charitable in my interpretation here, but from this statement from him, it sounds more like he is identifying that this issue of games ceasing to exist once the development cycle has concluded is an issue that is not exclusive to just Ubisoft, and currently what Ubisoft does is just pull the plug and give players a notice of the impending doom. And he also makes
They don't even give you a refund.
mention that games can't be
not even like a refund of all things.
supported by the developers forever, and then goes on to talk about how other tools also become obsolete and don't exist forever. It sounds more to me like he's just making a general statement about it, which he's right. The development on a game can't support it forever, which is why it's not what Stop Killing Games is asking for. It is asking for end-of-life plans, so that way when the development cycle is complete and they want to wash their hands of the product, what they do is they would have a plan in place in order for that game to be turned over in some way so that the community that paid for the game can still access the product they paid.
You know what another funny reason that some people might not understand about companies like EA and Blizzard having people have access to their game that they don't monitor anymore? There was a massive drama between Blizzard and IceFrog and a bunch of other developers that made Dota Defense of the Ancients, like the mod for Warcraft 3. Because they weren't really like making active updates to the game anymore. It was to the point where the mod ran away from the original game and became Dota 2, which then Valve acquired, and there was a massive lawsuit, and then Valve won. And that's why Warcraft 3 Reforged didn't let you have mods for games, because they didn't want the same thing to happen as it did with Dota and Dota 2. And they don't want you to have that access because there's a scary chance that could involve, like, I don't know, any game that Blizzard or EA or Ubisoft publishes that they remodify and package into a new game that's well enough away from the original. And it's like, no, I want to keep it for myself. You can't have your grubby little peasant hands on it. No, I don't want to put in the effort of putting in effort and shit. Yeah, afraid you could make a better game. Yeah, exactly.
Money for. It can still exist beyond the developers' need to support it.
Oh yeah, and DayZ. Yeah, that's actually a really good point. Arma 2 was just a game that was, I don't know, I think it came out like 2007 or 8? Arma 2 or Arma 1? Yeah, they had DayZ, which is still in early access. They were made from Arma.
It is not an unreasonable ask.
It became its own thing.
There have been so many game industry veterans with decades worth of experience in the industry coming forward to talk about how important something like that is and how reasonable and feasible it is as well. It is not some like ridiculous request or anything. It is very much doable. And what a lot of articles have run with from the Ubisoft statement is when he just made a mention of the support for the game can't last forever. And to me, that wasn't like the whole crux of what he was trying to say. And again, maybe I'm being too charitable here to Ubisoft Goober, but with the whole statement, it seems more like he's just identifying it is a far-reaching issue, and it is something that isn't exclusive to Ubisoft, but it is something that he also says that they're working on. It doesn't seem like he was trying to harp on that statement, like, can't support it forever, as like what Stop Killing Games is about. It doesn't really seem like it was targeted and trying to spin Stop Killing Games as that. like I was initially led to believe from the articles that were talking about it. When you see the whole thing, I think it paints a little bit of a different picture. Of course, I'm still no Ubisoft enthusiast here, and of course, Ubisoft isn't exactly happy with this direction, I'm sure.
I don't trust any company that stands against it, just because it's like, how realistically, how difficult is it to let a community of, I don't know, a couple of thousand people play an old game and have access to it, where you don't monitor anything and then you just let them, you know, just let them have it. You still have the copyright to it. Like, you just can't go and make like a new game out of it, obviously. You get sued to oblivion. Netflix stood against it, of course. Why wouldn't they? Yeah, old games like Monster Hunter, like being able to play any Nintendo game when all the old consoles are basically defunct at this point. You need a million workarounds to get it to work on your TV and have an adaptable TV. Like, oh my gosh. It's not that difficult. Like, you make billions of dollars and you can't dedicate 0.5% of it to making it available to your consumer that paid for it? I don't believe that.
But it doesn't seem like he was trying to misrepresent Stop Killing Games as demanding that we support forever. So, anyway, I still don't love the statement from him, because I still don't love the way they tackle it. I do appreciate that he says they're working on it. I guess we'll see if they actually do.
Ubisoft is working on nothing, bro.
I just wanted to talk a little bit
money.
more about how Ubisoft is going these days, because, yikes. Not very good. It doesn't seem all that positive for Ubisoft. And I don't know when they're finally going to have their come to Jesus moment and start making good games again and start making decisions that make sense in the industry. That's really about it. So, yeah.
They're not going to. If there's whales that are willing to give them hundreds and thousands of dollars every year, like EA makes so much fucking money. I still remember that video from like 2 years ago that we watched on stream of a guy that went on Reddit and said, I spent $150,000. I have a lot of money. I have 2 houses. All of my mortgages are paid off. Why am I not allowed to spend $150,000 on EA, I don't know, like FIFA gambling or whatever it was. It was like NBA gambling. Yes, I don't know, they said that and people were like, this is fake. And I'm like, I don't believe it. There are people like that supply many companies like this. It's just, I mean, it could be fake, but I'm just saying, I think it's real. I've heard stories. They want to get their hooks in a whale and just run with it. And it works because there's people like that just don't care. Yeah, gotcha whales too. Gotcha whales. You think that people spending like $2,000 a year on Genshin Impact is ridiculous? Like, which is a lot of money, by the way. It's just like, you think that people like that don't exist, like on a multiplicative level, and that's how they get their money back? Yeah, I don't know. I don't know.
Fire, 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 fire.